Hey everybody, it's Miss Sullivan talking about addition and subtraction of fractions. Before we kick this off, we'll kick it off by having a quick chat about BIDMAS and, as we all understand, linking it to what we did last term. So let's just have a quick little look. We know that that's brackets, index, division, multiplication. This time we're talking addition and subtraction. Last term when we were adding and subtracting in algebra, we know we had to look for like terms. That meant terms that had the same variables and the same indices. So let's have a look at this one, 2a plus 2a. Yep, I can totally do that. Add my coefficients, 2 plus 2 is 4, and a plus a, because I know that's got a sneaky little invisible a to the power of 1, a to the power of 1. They're the same. The answer is 4a. Terrific. Having a look at the next one, 2a plus 2b, there's nothing I can do here because I can't add a together with b. They're different variables. Similarly with this one, 2a squared plus 2a, I can't add these guys together because a squared and a are not like terms. So just like we were looking for like terms when we added and subtracted in algebra, when we add and subtract with fractions, we've got to create like terms. We've got to create a common denominator. So before we move on, let's just have a little reminder. Fraction, top number's the numerator, bottom number's the denominator. Cool. Another quick little reminder, when we're talking fractions, we know that where the numerator is smaller than the denominator, like 2 over 3, it's called a proper fraction. So it's going to be somewhere in between 0 and 1. It's less than 1. So there's 0, there's 1, 1/3, 2/3. When we've got a numerator that's bigger than our denominator, something like 4 over 3, we get an improper fraction. It's bigger than 1. So there's 0, there's 1, and here's 4 over 3, because that's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3. And we can also express improper fractions as mixed numbers, because we know 4 over 3 is really, that line means divided by. So 4 divided by 3. So 3 into 4 goes once, remainder 1/3. So 1 and 1/3 is the same as, is equivalent to 4 over 3. And again, it's going to be 1 and 1/3. So when we're doing addition and subtraction of fractions and we look at mixed numbers, it's really good if we can start by turning them back into improper fractions, just writing them in a different context, writing them as an improper fraction. That way we're dealing with like terms. So just a little reminder about creating equivalent fractions. So to add a 1/2 and a 1/4, I can't add these dudes because they don't have the same denominator. So I'm looking for multiples, I'm looking for factors. In this case, I know that if I multiply this whole thing by 2, and don't forget I've got to do the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 4, 2 times 2, is 4. Now I can add it up, and I'm going to get 3/4. What I've done here is that 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. But because I created a common denominator, now I can add them together. One more little reminder. Don't forget our rules to do with integers. So, integers when we add and subtract. Let's have a little look. If we add a positive, if we add a positive number, we move to the right. If we minus a negative, we're decreasing a debt, we also move to the right. If we minus a positive number, we're moving to the left, we're decreasing an asset. And if we add a negative number, we're increasing our debt, we're moving to the left. So a couple of quick little examples, like 1 plus 3. Oh, I better give it a little 4 here. So 1 plus 3, 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 minus 1. I'll start on 4. I'll move down here and I end up on 3. So I minus a positive, I move to the left. Let's start on 1 and add -2. So I'm adding a negative, moving to the right, my answer is -1. Now if I start on -1 and I add -2, I'm decreasing my depth by 2, so I'm moving to the right, 1, 2. Cool. But we're all over that by now. We've just got to remember that integers also apply with fractions. And another little reminder that we'll come back to later, don't forget when you've got equations that contain more than one operation, BIDMAS, 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 brackets, then indexes, then division and multiplication, left to right, whichever comes first, then addition and subtraction. So it's 1, 2, 3, whichever comes first, 4, whichever comes first. Excellent. So there's also that little reminder. So 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. What I do here, 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 5 is 5. So what I've done to the bottom, I have to do to the top if I'm going to make equivalent fractions. That's really important because now we're going to start adding and subtracting fractions. Let's start with this little one. -1/6 plus 3/4. All right, I'm looking at 6, I'm looking at 4, and I want to create a common denominator. So I know that both of these are factors of 12. So if I multiply this whole thing, top and bottom, by 2, let's see what happens. 2 times 1, or -1, is -2. 2 times 6 is 12. And then I need to multiply this whole thing by 3. 3 times 3 is 9, positive 9. 3 times 4 is 12. So you'll notice there that I applied my sign to the numerator. The positive and negative, I only talked about them in relation to the numerator. So -2 plus 9 is 7/12. Now, if you don't know that these, you common multiples, so that a common multiple of 6 and 4 is 12, if you don't know common multiples, another way you can do it is just to look at these denominators. So I've got a 6 here and a 4 here. And I can multiply all of this by 6 and all of this by 4. So you just multiply one side by the denominator of the other, then you multiply the other side by the denominator of the other. Let's see what happens here. So if I multiply this whole thing, this time forget about this because I'm not doing it with 12, I'm doing it with 6. So 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 4 is 24. This time I'm looking at multiply it by 4. 4 times -1 is -4. 4 times 6 is 24. So -4 plus 18 comes to 14 over 24. And now I can simplify. I can see that this is divisible by 2. So 2 goes into 14 7 times, and 2 goes into 24 12 times. I divided both of these by their common factor 2. And you see, I end up with the same answer. So it's cool if you know common multiples, but if you don't, multiply 1 by the denominator of this one and multiply that fraction by the denominator of the other one. Excellent. Let's do a couple more. Let's do a little example with a mixed number. So here I've got -3 3/4 plus -1/8. So in order to be dealing with like terms, first I've got to turn this back into an improper fraction. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15, -15 over 4, plus -1 over 8. Now already I can see that 4 is a factor of 8. So all I'm going to do here is multiply this by 2. So 2 times negative 15, negative 30, 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 30 plus negative 1, because now they're both over 8. Negative 30 plus negative 1, that's just the same. Negative 31 over 8, because we're adding a negative, we're moving one way to the left. So negative 31 over 8, and I know that that little line there really means divided by. So it's negative 31 divided by 8. So 8 goes into 31. Let's do it this way. 8 into 31. I know 8 goes into 31 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. If that's right, is 24. 4 from 1. 1 minus 4, I can't do that. I'm going to borrow 1 from over here. 4 from 11 is 7. Remainder 7 eighths. And remember, the signs are different, so the answer's negative. So negative 31 over 8 equals negative 3 and 7/8. Cool. Now let's try doing one that's a little bit more, just a little bit more complicated because it's got 3 terms in it, because sometimes that can confuse us. Let's have a look here just to solidify what we're doing. Mixed numbers become improper fractions. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 makes that 11 over 5, plus 1 over 3 minus negative 3/5. And I know that a minus and a minus is really a plus. And now I'm going to have a look across the bottom. 5, 3, and 5. Oh, there is a common multiple here. I know that the common multiple is 15. So I'm going to multiply this by 3. I'm going to multiply this one by 5. And I'm going to multiply this one by 3. And remember to turn my negative and negative into a positive. So let's go. 3 times 11, 33 over 15, plus 5 over 15, because I multiplied that by 5, multiply that by 5. Plus, because my negative and negative have become a positive, 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 is 15. So now I'm looking at 33 plus 5 plus 9. Oh, I wanted to make that a negative. I'll make this a negative too. Negative, negative, negative. Just to remind us, negative 33 plus 5 plus 9 comes to negative 19 over 15. And like I said, 19 divided by 15, 15 goes into 19. 1 time, remainder 4 15ths, but negative 19 divided by 15, the signs are different, so the answer is negative. Terrific.